The night is still, and gradually I can hear the soft breathing of my friends as they each drift to sleep. A gentle shuffling noise has me blinking with my eyes. I see the pongo slip out of Leanna's bedroll and tiptoe over towards the bag of spheres, glancing back every so often at her sleeping form to make sure she doesn't hear. When we get close, he shuffles the last few inches to the bag and scrambles inside. The last thing I hear is a purring of poise as I drift to sleep. I wake up. That was a crazy day yesterday, but somehow we managed to pull through. I stand up and stretch while looking around. Everyone seems to be sleeping. Everyone but Leanna, of course. She is always up bright and early to practice. I think she's rubbing off on me because I am waking up early on these days too. I look down at my pungle. What the? He's a bigger blob than I remember, he grins contentedly. Were you absorbing all night?
Boy.
I smile at my pongo and pat him on the head. He snuggles against my hand. Whatever makes you happy, little guy.
Boy.
I stretch again. Ever since I got into the routine with Leanna, I look forward to our morning spars. Between the magic training and sword training, maybe I could eventually become a mage knight. It doesn't take me long to find Leanna, back in her usual outfit. She sits cross-legged with her eyes closed as if in meditation. Her crystal glows in her manipulator, but otherwise she doesn't move. As I move closer, she breaks from her trance and gives me a warm smile.
Good morning.
Hey. Just practicing energy channeling? She nods.
I was just waiting for a certain someone to wake up so we could spar.
I wear an apologetic smile. My apologies. I should not keep my lady waiting. Leanna giggles.
Aren't you quite the gentleman? But don't think that means I'll go easy on you.
I ready my blade. I wouldn't have it any other way.
We'll start with a standard spar. The goal is to knock your opponent to the ground. Ready?
My grip tightens around my blade. I nod. Let's go! We dash toward each other, and our swords meet in a metallic clang. Leanna spins around and swings her sword toward my side. I bring my sword down and hear another clash of metal hits metal. Then I push the blade back and move as I strike, and as I move the strike, Leanna easily parries it, and she knocks my sword away, creating an opening. I manage to dodge her strike just in time. She ducks low to avoid my retaliating blow and thrusts her sword again. We continue to dance back and forth as the duel progresses. I can feel myself improving. I'm not having as much trouble defending against Leanna's attacks, and I'm able to get a few jabs in on my own too. Beads of sweat cover Leanna's forehead in a light sheen. She doesn't look like she's using her wind magic to buff her. Leanna matches my intensity, something she does every match. Just as I feel confident I have the upper hand, she increases her skill level, and I have to scramble to keep up again. Regardless of my improvement, I still haven't been able to beat her in a single match, and those statistics do hurt my pride a little. Maybe if I can distract her and catch her by surprise, I'll have a better chance of winning a match. I've been playing by Leanna's rules this whole time. Maybe it's time to take a play from Zach's book. Do whatever you need to win. These are practice duels anyway, and the goal is to improve, not win. We continue to spar as usual, trading blow for blow, but ultimately, as she has done so many times before, she manages to knock me over. Leanna walks over to me and offers a hand to help me up. As we cool down, she gives me some more pointers on how to improve, as well as offers some encouraging words on how much I've grown. After a brief break, Leanna has to duel a few more times to help my endurance in training. She's barely broken a sweat, even after my limbs feel like lead, and I can barely stand. No wonder mage knights are such a force to be reckoned with. Everyone else is up by the time we return to camp. I smell the delicious aroma of food and grab myself a bowl. Once everyone is served, we sit down together to eat. After a few moments of silence, Amelia seems to remember something and grabs a book from her backpack.
Here.
She hands it to Kara. Kara blinks in surprise, and I notice it's the same book Kara gave Amy back at the Earth Temple.
You don't want this anymore.
Amelia shakes her head.
I have read through the literature and it does not contain any information which could be of use.
Really? We found it in an old temple. Are you sure it's not something that the Mage Academy would want?
Amy shakes her head again.
The text is a subjective moral lesson in the way of a fictional story about an adolescent. This yields no academical benefit.
Kara thinks, then shrugs.
Okay, if you're sure you don't want it, then I can sell it. It's still an ancient relic after all.
Do as you please with it.
Alright, thanks, Amy.
She nods and resumes eating. Once everyone has eaten their fill, we clean up camp and continue on our journey. We travel together for quite some time. Finally, the sun begins dipping low and streaking the sky with sizzling pinks and yellows. Rocks crunch under our boots as we continue down the path. The air is brisk, and goosebumps shiver up my arms. A sharp breeze cuts through the clothes, and I wonder how much further we need to walk. We manage to drag our way through, the chill deepening with each vanishing beam of sunlight. Kara leads the way a few steps ahead of us. Zach's expression is hard to read, but I notice him pull his coat a little tighter around him. Leanna rubs her hands together before puffing a hot breath into the cradle of her palms. The pongo nuzzles against my neck and disappears into my scarf. He's even colder than usual, making me shiver again. I guess I'm not the only one noticing the chill.
Aw, poor little guy. It's pretty cold out, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
We should pick up the pace. When night falls, it's only going to get worse.
We agree. My teeth rattle from the cold, and I tuck my freezing hands under my arms. The bitter breeze swirls through Leanna's hair and makes her shiver. She coils tighter into herself. Amelia's cloak balloons out behind her, and she lifts her hood over her head. Hey Amy, can't you use fire magic to keep us warm?
Such an expenditure of energy would be wasteful.
Oh, come on. She shakes her head. I let out a deep, defeated sigh. A human furnace would have been so nice. We continue on. The wind ruffles my hair and passes right through me, numbing me with cold. Even Zach folds into himself and stuffs his hands deep into his pockets. Amelia links her hood tighter around her ears and face and tries to keep her cloak from billowing out too much. Leanna keeps her head down, the frigid air churning her cheeks pink. Kara is walking ahead of us with a little skip in her step. Her arms dangle at her sides as if she's just taking an afternoon stroll. I nudge Zach. Is Kara not cold? Zach untucks himself from his coat long enough to take a look. Then his voice drops too.
Doesn't seem like she is.
Leanna hears us talking and blinks in surprise at Kara.
How is she not cold?
There's only one explanation. She obviously knows magic. Zach and Leanna just stare at me. Alright, never mind.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you guys talking about me?
My mouth drops. How does she always hear us? Leanna and Zach look alarmed too. Amelia just blinks at the commotion.
Aren't you freezing?
Carol looks at her blankly.
I don't think so.
Zach's stares intensifies. His face is frozen in a confused grimace.
Seriously? How's that even possible when you're barely wearing...
Kara tilts her head and raises an eyebrow. She smiles, and the rest of Zach's sentence trails off. Leanna gapes at her.
Seriously, what's your secret?
Secret?
There's gotta be a secret to it, right? Or some kind of heating device that's keeping you warm?
Amy steps over and checks her manipulator.
She does not seem to be using any magical assistance to keep warm.
Kara laughs.
Are you guys a little chilly or something?
Leanna's trembling becomes a little more noticeable as she huddles between me and Amelia. Kara glances at each of our trembling forms, and for a moment she seems confused.
Oh, wow. You guys do look cold.
Because it is!
She watches Leanna, Amy, and I step closer together for warmth, and her expression changes like a light bulb went off in her head. She turns to Zach, and her mouth spreads into a slow smirk. The way she's looking at him reminds me of a fox eyeing a rabbit.
Actually, you're right. I'm freezing. Ooh.
She wraps her arms around herself and feigns a violent shudder before cozying up to Zach.
I'm terribly cold.
He shuffles away from her.
What are you doing?
Carol pouts.
Trying to stay warm, of course. Aren't you cold too?
Zach frowns.
I'm not cold.
Just as he says that, the wind picks up again. He shivers and crosses his arms. A sly grin spreads across Carol's face.
Oh, of course you're not.
She moves toward him, and Zach shuffles away again.
Not happening.
Kara frowns.
But I'm not dressed appropriately for this weather.
How is that my fault?
Kara looks up at him with big, shimmering puppy eyes.
Okay.
She looks defeated and sniffles.
I guess I'll try to manage somehow.
She hugs herself with another theatrical shiver and exaggerates a few sniffles for added effect. Zach shifts side to side, clearly uncomfortable. He crosses his arms and lets out a deep, deep sigh.
Fine.
He goes to take off his coat, but Kara stops him.
Wait, I don't want you to be cold too.
Well, there's no other option.
The same devilish smirk slides across her face.
Sure there is.
She lifts up Zach's jacket and slips inside, pressing herself against him.
Hey!
What? We have to keep warm, right? This jacket is big enough for the both of us.
Zach looks like he's about to argue, but says nothing. Kara smiles and snuggles him down. Zach's cheek tinged pink, and he looks away from her. Kara notices his blush and smirks again.
Don't think I'm enjoying this. I'm only doing this because it'll be troublesome if you get sick.
Of course you are. That's so sweet. Thank you.
My eyes drift over to Leanna. She glances at me and blushes before quickly looking away. Maybe that means she wants to get close too? Whatever. She'll be fine.
We are nearing Ellendale. The journey should not be much longer.
Oh, really? What a shame.
Zach gives her a look.
I mean, oh boy. Yeah, it's so cold. Good thing we're almost there.
Zach and Kara quicken their pace, and we follow them for the rest of the journey. We travel for a few days. It seems to get colder and colder the more we travel, but we somehow manage. On one afternoon, we finally arrive in Ellendale. Although there's still a pleasant chill in the air, the sun's bright rays warm us as it glints off the impressive buildings. The people here are well dressed and pay no attention to us. They must be used to seeing those from out of town. As we venture further into town, I notice lots of people heading towards the center of the square and into a large structure. What do you guys think that building is over there? Amy glances at where I point and brightens up.
That is exactly where we need to be headed.
She speeds up, looking pleased. Seems like everyone else needs to be there too.
Is there an event going on? What exactly is in there?
But Amy is already out of earshot. We pick up the pace to keep up. When we enter, I'm blown away by the sheer magnitude of the place. The main doors open into a hallway which splits off into adjoining wings. One wing is labeled the library. There is a conservatory and a cultural center too. The conservatory does not allow visitors, but the cultural center seems to be hosting some sort of exhibition, and that is where the crowd of people are filtering into. Leanna breathes out in wonder as she takes in the hall. Kara cranes her neck to get a better look into the library while Zack watches the crowd. Amy turns toward us.
The library in Ellendale is renowned for its collection of rare tomes. It is the largest library in Havengard. Since we are already aware the Wind Temple is in this vicinity, I hope that by cross-referencing the books in the library with the notes from Eldorism, I will be able to narrow down their exact location.
Leanna nods.
Good idea. Do you need any help?
Amy shakes her head.
I am confident that I will discover the information we need sooner rather than later.
Kara grins.
You don't have to tell me twice. I've got some business of my own I'd like to take care of while we're here.
Zack narrows his eyes.
What kind of business?
Kara smiles sweetly.
I had no idea you took such an interest in me.
He crosses his arms.
I just want to make sure you aren't getting into trouble.
That doesn't sound like me.
Alright, why don't we all take some time to relax and explore Edendale, and meet back up here afterwards.
Everyone agrees and goes their separate ways. To my surprise, Kara follows Amy into the library. Zack and Leanna both move towards the exhibitions and seem surprised by each other's choice. I take a closer look at the exhibition and see two signs. I guess the reason there are so many people here is because there are two exhibitions going on at once. One is on the illusions of the mind, and the other is about the heroes of Asaria. Leanna and Zack both walk towards the exhibition of illusions. I'm gonna see what Kara's up to. Kara said she was going to take care of some business in the library. I wonder what she's up to. I head into the library and find her among the shelves. Hey Kara! She smiles.
Hey there.
Checking out the selection?
You could say that. I'm wondering if I have something that might interest them.
She pulls out a faded tome she found in the Earth Temple.
If this library is as extensive as Amy says, maybe they're looking to expand their collection.
Couldn't hurt to ask. I browse the books along the shelves. It looks like they've got other old books here too. She pulls out a book and inspects its cover, then grins as she puts it back.
They've got Aria's texts.
Ooh, who are they?
The ancient civilization here. They're the people who would have built the Wind Temple. If they've got Aria's tomes, then they're sure to be interested in what I've got.
Kara confidently approaches the librarian.
Perhaps you could assist me.
The librarian glances down his nose at Kara and sniffs disdainfully.
Perhaps.
Ignoring his haughtiness, Kara pulls out the book and places it in front of him.
Would you be interested in a Gaian text?
He leans closer to inspect it.
Where did you acquire this?
From one of the ruins. Unlike most of texts found, this one is very atypical. It's actually a children's book.
Surprise slips through his demeanor.
A children's book?
Kara carefully flips through the pages to show off the illustrations.
Yes, and you can tell it's Gaian based on the calligraphy.
She points to two different places on the page.
The Gaian's language didn't use punctuation, while the other ancient civilizations, such as the Arai, did. And the parchment itself is out of an animal hide, which is typical of Gaian culture.
Kara continues to spout more and more facts. The more she talks, the more impressed the librarian seems. By the end of her speech, his frown is replaced with an interested grin. He further inspects the book and then nods in satisfaction.
Fascinating. And you're hoping to donate it to our library?
Well, donate for a small fee.
Ah, of course.
He lists a number which Kara pleasantly counters. They go back and forth for a while before the librarian finally nods. The two of them disappear for a few minutes before Kara returns with a small pouch. She grins as she safely tucks away her pouch. How'd it go?
Not bad. I was hoping I could get a little more, but I still ended up with more than the initial offer. That's a win in my book.
I can't help but be a little impressed. It must have shown on my face as Kara looks at me questioningly.
What is it?
Nothing really. You just really know your stuff. I heard you explaining to the librarian how to tell the book was Gaian.
All in a day's work. It's important to do your research in my line of business. Don't want to be ripped off. Why don't we go check out the shops?
Sure. It'll be nice to see more of the city. Kara and I leave the building and wander the cobbled streets until we come upon the marketplace. We browse a few of the storefronts. Kara mostly ignores the clothing shops and seems more interested in stores selling trinkets or antiques. While Kara peers through the window of a shop, I overhear a father and son talking in front of the sweet shop. The boy claps happily as his father hands him candy. His dad grins equally as well.
I'm proud of you, son. Remember to keep up your studies. Maybe one day you can grow up to be a mage.
Thanks, Dad.
I recall my father's voice and how he looked when I brought home my first A. He looked just as proud and happy as that man with a son. He took me out to ice cream as a reward and told me to keep my grades up. What is he doing now? Does he even know that I'm missing? My hand waves in front of my face.
Hello? Are you still there?
Kara looks concerned. Huh? Sorry, what's going on?
You okay there?
Sorry. I saw that father and son over there and it just reminded me of my home. My dad used to buy me ice cream as a reward for doing well in school when I was young. Kara's expression softens.
You never really talk about home. Sometimes it's hard to remember that everything is so up in the air for you. One minute you were living life as usual, and then in an instant all of that was ripped away and your life turned completely upside down.
Kara's voice increases as she talks. She seems to know exactly how I feel. It sounds like you've dealt with something similar. Kara looks surprised, then laughs bitterly.
Nothing quite as extreme as being transported to another world.
But something did happen? She goes quiet. Sorry, I didn't mean to pry. It's just unexpected, since you're always confident. I got the impression you like traveling alone, and it's hard to imagine you'd be unable to handle yourself. Kara smiles softly.
I wasn't always like that. When I was young, I lived with my father in a big town. I went to school and gossiped with my friends and played with dolls just like every other little girl.
I can't imagine you playing with dolls. She laughs.
I love them. It's a bit embarrassing how many I had. My friends always liked to come to my house because I had all the popular dolls back in the day.
You realize I can't keep this information to myself, right?
Little girls like dolls. I'm not ashamed.
She's starting to sound a little more like herself again.
Anyway, sometimes things happen out of your control, and all you can do is roll with the punches. I'm sorry that you've been feeling alone, and that it's taken me so long to notice.
Oh, don't be sorry. I appreciate you listening. Kara blinks.
But I'm the one who's been talking.
But you understood what I was talking about, and even just knowing that someone else has experienced the same thing helps ease the loneliness. Kara grins.
I see. Well, in that case, I'm glad to be of service.
She glances down the road.
Let's keep going.
I nod. We walk around a while longer to explore the city. We eventually return to the library and exhibition hall and part ways. I'm ready to call it a day. The sun is beginning to dip in the sky. I better check on Amy and see if she's made any progress. After entering the library, I spot Amelia at a secluded table surrounded by a mountain of books. She doesn't hear me approach. Hey, Amy.
Hello.
She doesn't look up from her textbook. Did you make any progress? Finally, she looks up at me.
Yes, I did.
She gestures to the books around her.
All of these texts include data on the 100 floating isles. I have spent the afternoon gathering and analyzing all of that information.
Wait, did you say floating isles? Amy blinks.
Yes,
As in, they're hovering in the air.
yes,
You don't seem surprised by this.
of course not. The islands float due to the magical dispersion in this area. This is a natural phenomenon which has been around since the time of the ancients.
Do people live on these islands?
No, it is not logical nor conducive for habitation. Most of the islands are far too small for colonization, and those which are large enough to hold a small population are not suited for civilization. But because they have been mostly untouched, the Isles are still one of the most beautiful natural wonders of Isaria.
Okay. But if no one lives on the isles, then why are we studying them?
It is highly likely that the Wind Temple was built upon one of those isles. Based on my hypothesis, the temple would be built on the site of the highest concentration of energy.
Oh? Amy nods and begins to explain her scribbled notes. The rest of the group slowly trickles in. Zack and Leanna arrive, and a short while later, Kara follows.
If my calculations are correct, the temple should be located in this region.
She opens one of the books to a map and points to a cluster of islands. That's great, but we still have a problem. The islands are floating. How are we supposed to get up there?
Wind magic would solve that predicament.
Everyone focuses on Leanna.
That's true. While I can use wind magic to jump from isle to isle, it's impossible for me to manipulate enough energy to be able to float everyone. I could float myself and perhaps assist one other person.
Obviously, that second person would be him.
Zack gestures to me. Makes sense. I'm the only person who can absorb the energy.
What about the rest of us?
Don't worry, Kara. I'll bring you back some souvenirs from the temple. Kara laughs.
I appreciate that, but we should still be close by. The least we can do is keep watch.
We can set up at the edge of the first isle and wait for their return.
Kara nods.
That sounds good to me.
There's still some distance for us to travel to reach the Isles. We can cross that distance as a group and split up from there.
Yes, but tomorrow. It's already growing dark, so we should rest tonight.
Let's go find an inn then.
Once an agreement, we help Amy clean up and then return to the streets. Now that the sun is set, the cold seeps through my clothes and chills my skin. A shiver crawls down my spine. Leanna blows on her hands.
The change in temperature is really apparent without the sun.
Amy glances at Leanna.
If you are cold, perhaps we should inquire whether the Flushed Mermaid has any rooms. Their rooms are more luxurious than the inns we may be used to, but there is a fireplace in each room. I do believe they provide heat stones we may request to sleep in our beds, should the blankets be insufficient. Plus, their hot springs are open for guest usage.
Kara perks up.
Did you just say hot springs?
Yes, that is,
You had me at hot springs. Let's go there.
She begins to push Amy in a random direction.
this is the incorrect way. The inn is towards the west.
Oops. To the west.
Kara hurries Amy towards the west as the rest of us follow along. Our group checks into the Flushed Mermaid. The first thing we do is make reservations for the hot springs. Fortunately, their availabilities for the men's and women's hot springs are at the same time. After we complete our reservations, we receive our keys to the rooms and go upstairs to get ready. Amy was right when she said the Flushed Mermaid had nice rooms. These are a lot more elegant and grand than any of the others we've stayed in. Zack and I enter the room, and my eyes are drawn to the pale wooden dressers gilded with clamshells and pearls. 2 couches sit before a flickering ivory fireplace. The mantel is streaked with silver waves from a mermaid carved at the center. Dang! Why don't we always stay in rooms like this?
They're expensive.
Zack heads to his room as I find robes and towels in my closet. Once I am ready, I meet up with Zack and we go downstairs to make our way to the men's side of the hot springs. I step down into the pool, shivering at the first touch of heat. Zack settles across from me, enveloped in a vapor cloud. I sink even lower for the water to cover my chest. The Pongo plops next to me with a small splash. After a moment, he drifts back up to the surface like a fishing bobber. The Pongo drifts in place, his mouth still covered underwater. A second later, he lets out a happy bubbly noise. I smile and pat him on his head. This is nice, isn't it? The Pongo beams up at me. He leaps out of the pool and then makes a game of jumping in and out of the water. So... Zack doesn't even open his eyes. His arms are spread along the edge of the pool. How's life?
Fine.
Silence. Catch any scary bad guys recently? No response. I frown, sinking a little lower into the water. I notice a huge scar that ripples across Zack's chest. Cool scar! Where'd you get it? Zack finally opens his eyes and stares me down. Okay, maybe I struck a nerve. Never mind. Zack turns away. Man, this obviously isn't going anywhere. I might as well just enjoy the hot springs and stop trying to get him to talk. I close my eyes and try to brush off our awkward conversation. Everything is so quiet. Too quiet. I don't even hear the Pongo splashing around. I open my eyes and realize he's not there. Hey! Where's the Pongo? Zack looks around. The Pongo is nowhere in sight. The Pongo is constantly running off. Aren't you curious about where he goes?
No.
If he's not hanging around with me, he's usually with Amy. For science. Zack arches an eyebrow.
And?
Never mind. Zack and I stay in the hot springs until our time is up. We gather our towels and go back to the inn. In the back of my mind, I wonder if the Pongo really did go to the girl's side. I can't help but feel like I'm missing out on something. After our time is up at the hot springs, we change back into our clothes and meet at the Flushed Mermaid's Inn to have a late night snack. We gather around a mother-of-pearl table, flecked with bits of coral. The chairs here are more comfortable than the wooden ones I've gotten used to. The servers bring us each a scoop of ice cream. Leanna grins and digs in.
Wow, this is delicious!
What kind do you have?
Chocolate.
Kara's expression turns wicked.
Looks good. Mind if I try?
Leanna smiles.
Not at all.
She goes to slide over her bowl, but instead Kara moves in on the spoon of ice cream that Leanna is holding and eats directly from it.
Kara!
Yep, you're right. It's delicious.
Kara giggles and winks. Zack stares at the scene. Kara seems to feel his stare because she turns to face him.
What's wrong? Want me to lick yours, too?
Zack chokes on his ice cream as his face becomes completely red.
Oh wait, never mind. We both got the same flavor.
She grins devilishly.
I'm glad we have the same tastes.
Zack mumbles something incoherent. After we're done with our snack, we all decide to turn in for the night. We make our way towards the staircase to our bedrooms. We hike up the stairs and separate into our rooms.
Boy!
I glance down. Huh? You want to stay with us, Pongo? The Pongo perks up.
Boy!
I open the door a little wider and he bounces into the room. The wind howls outside and I automatically step closer to the fireplace. Didn't Amy say something about slipping hot stones into our beds if we're cold? But Zack has already rolled away from me. By his heavy breathing, I can tell he is already asleep. I feel pretty relaxed too. I suppose that's the thing about hot springs. It helps you relax and get a good night's sleep. I crawl into my bed where the sheets are smooth and welcoming. The Pongo snuggles up next to me under the blankets. My eyelids feel heavy, and in only a few minutes I find myself drifting off into a deep sleep. Sunlight blasts through the windows and wakes me up bright and early. I groan as I sit up in bed, rubbing my eyes. I squint at the next bed. Zack is nowhere in sight. I guess he's on an even earlier riser. After I'm dressed, the Pongo leaps onto my shoulder. Good morning. He lets out a little yawn.
Boy!
It's pretty early, huh? The Pongo nods and snuggles against my neck, closing his eyes.
Boy!
We have a long day of traveling ahead of us. I wonder if everyone's already downstairs. I open the door and step into the hall. As predicted, I find everyone waiting on me downstairs.
Ready to go?
Yeah, I have everything.
Great! Then let's get going.
We set off towards the floating isles. With the bright sun in the sky, I barely feel the chill in the air. It seems like Leanna and the rest of the team are feeling much warmer too. Maybe this is from the magic of the hot springs warming us from the inside. Either way, I'm not complaining. The walk to the air temple takes a few hours. Lately I've been getting used to all of the traveling, but why is everything so far away from each other?
We made it!
Huh? We did?
Yep, look!
I glance to where Leanna's pointing, and my mouth drops open. There are 100 floating islands sprawled out across the sky. Hearing Amelia tell me about them was one thing, but actually seeing them in person...
I've never seen anything like it.
Me neither.
Even Zack looks impressed. All the isles are different shapes and sizes, just big enough for maybe a few people to stand on. The wind tosses the glistening grass from side to side. I can make out clusters of different flowers peppering some of the islands. Pale purples and fluffy magentas.
Just as I expected, the temple should be here.
Where exactly? Amelia points above the isles and up into the clouds.
You and Liana will find the air temple at the highest floating isle.
It's a good thing I'm not scared of heights.
We'll set up here while you guys go do your thing.
Good luck.
Leanna and I nod.
Off we go then!
Leanna and I travel up the slope in silence. After a while, I glance back and feel unease when the rest of our party members are no longer in sight. As we continue to travel upwards, I feel my ears pop. Just how high up are we? We finally reach the pinnacle point of the mountain. The isles are closer and look even more impressive. The closest isles look deceivingly close, but I know that if I tried to jump it without a boost of magic, I'd never make it. A breeze ruffles my hair as I step closer to the edge. I look down, and down, and down. My chest tightens. That is a very long drop.
Don't worry, we're not going in that direction.
Leanna gives me a reassuring smile. I feel slightly better, but my stomach is still in knots. I glance at the first aisle. How are we going to do this? Leanna sprints past me and effortlessly jumps high into the air. She lands gracefully onto the platform. No matter how many times I've watched Leanna use magic to augment physical skills, it never ceases to amaze me at just how bad that is.
Your turn. Take a running start and jump. I'll boost you over.
As I look at the massive gap between the edge and the first aisle, my knees become shaky and weak. What if I really do fall? I believed in Leanna so far. No reason to doubt her now. I close my eyes and recompose myself. This is going to be quite literally a leap of faith. I step a few paces back and get ready to sprint. Ready?
Yep.
Here goes nothing. I dash towards the edge and jump with all my strength. I feel a powerful gust of wind lift me high in the air. In one smooth motion, I make it onto the platform with a breeze softening my landing. My heart is racing.
You okay?
That was awesome! Leanna looks surprised and giggles.
You ready for the next one?
Yeah, let's do it. We walk across the aisle and position ourselves to jump onto the next one.
Alright, you're going to try this next jump with your own magic channeling.
My blood runs cold. My magic? Leanna nods.
I know you can do it. You just have to use the wind like a springboard and you'll fly right over. Find the spot that you're going to take off from and conjure a powerful gust of wind from there as you jump.
Right. Leanna speaks encouragingly, trying to calm my nerves.
Don't worry. If it doesn't work, I'll help.
I'll look at the next aisle.
Just remember what we've practiced. You'll be fine.
I nod and prepare a running start. Use the wind as a springboard. Right. I can do that. I suck in a deep breath. I dash ahead, forcing myself to push past my nerves and focus my mind on my manipulator. My stomach drops as my feet leave the ground, but I try to push through the fear and focus on casting. A surge of energy shoots down my arm. My gauntlet glows, and the air swirls up around me, pushing me forward. I let out a startled cry as I fly through the air. I land hard on the next aisle and feel the wind escape me, but at least I made it over on my own.
That was excellent!
Leanna floats under the same aisle and glances gracefully on her feet, a wide smile on her face.
You were able to augment your abilities on the first try! I'm so proud of you!
Her smile is contagious, and I grin back. Thanks.
You ready to keep going?
I nod, now brimming with confidence. Let's go! As one, Leanna and I leap and land on the next island, and the next, and the next. The first few times I jump, I float shakily in the air, but the more I cast, the easier it becomes. We hop from aisle to aisle, keeping pace and making good time. Leanna catches my grin and laughs, springing ahead of me. I smirk, and two can play at that game. I push forward with another surge of magical energy and race ahead of her.
It's like that, is it?
She wears a determined look, and a roar of wind soars overhead. You're on! I leap after her. Her sunny hair whips about with each jump. Her laughter streams across the clouds, bright and delighted. We race forward, but I can't seem to pass her. We finally soar and slide to the stop on a final platform, our shoes flinging up grass and dirt. I laugh, the sound of breathless and spiky. My lungs burn as I take in gulps of air. Now that we've finally stopped, I realize how much energy I've used. My muscles ripple with exhaustion. I feel like I could collapse and take a nap right here. Do you mind if we take a quick break? She nods.
That's a good idea. You aren't used to such a heavy energy usage in a short amount of time.
It's comfortable and peaceful as Leanna and I sit down.
It's beautiful here.
I follow her gaze. It really is. The clouds look as if soft as sponge sugar. They glide across the blue sky. Dappled sunlight glints off of Leanna's white armor. Her hair dances across her face as we watch the sun begin to dip low behind the clouds.
It's so nice here. It makes me happy.
Happy? She nods.
I don't feel so weighed down here. It's like I'm free.
I blanket her, curious. Free from what?
Everything. It's just, I don't know. The looming responsibility of the world weighs me down sometimes.
A small chuckle puffs out of me. The looming responsibility of the world? Leanna blushes.
I suppose it's not the whole world. It's just, there's sometimes so much expectation. From the Mage Guild, from guards and places we visit because of the sigil.
She hesitates for a second.
And from my family. It all gets so overwhelming.
She's always so calm, collected, and upbeat. I guess it's hard to remember she's human too when she keeps up such a strong facade. She doesn't talk about her family much. From the way she hesitated when mentioning them just now, I gather their relationship may be strained. Expectations from your family? She pauses and hugs her knees close to her chest.
Well, in this world, a lot of women my age are already married and have children. It's something my family has always wanted for me. Those things, they aren't bad, but it's not something I want to think about right now. I want to explore and see everything. I want to be free.
I nod, understanding. It must have been rough to constantly have those expectations on your shoulders. Leanna smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. She shrugs.
Yeah, I love my family, but we definitely have different views on things.
I nod. Yeah, of course. There's a pause.
Ever since I joined the Mage Guild, I feel like I can finally breathe. I can look to the horizon and know that I can just go there.
There's another pause.
But all this doesn't matter. I know I'll have to leave the guild one day and fulfill the expectations others have for me. Why even bother doing any of this if it's all so fleeting?
Sometimes it's better not to think about what's to come. It's better to just enjoy the moment for how it is. Leanna blinks.
Enjoy the moment.
I grin and nod. Yeah, just appreciate things as they are right now. Leanna looks a little confused, but interested. The experiences you have, the memories you make, those are not fleeting. They stay with you forever. They make you who you are as a person. If you get so wrapped up on how you're supposed to live, you forget to actually live.
I never really thought about it like that.
I nod reassuringly. Like today. You're free and able to travel, right? We've been hopping around in the air and it's been fun. And I don't know about you, but when I'm soaring through the clouds, I can't think of anything except how amazing that moment feels. That's how you should live every day. Leanna tilts her head intrigued.
That's an interesting way to view things. But what about the responsibilities you still have?
Yeah, I do. I have to get good grades at school or else I won't graduate. And I have to respect and honor my parents. But I also have to respect my own dreams for life. I try to take each day one step at a time. It's good to respect your obligations, but try to push forward with what you want in your life. Liana looks like she's processing what I say.
Oh, I see.
Besides, no one knows what life will throw your way. If someone told me a month ago that I'd be in another world talking to a mage knight on a floating island high in the sky, I'd think they were crazy. That doesn't even sound remotely possible. She chuckles. Yet here we are. There's just stuff you can't plan for. And those unexpected things that life throws your way, sometimes end up being better than anything you could have planned for. Her signature smile finally returns. A flock of birds suddenly shoot up into the sky. The movement tosses back our hair, and we watch them fly by in silence.
So, do you have anyone to go back to?
What, like a girlfriend? Liana's cheeks redden and she nods. I've never had a girlfriend. Liana's eyes widen a little.
Really?
She blushes. I can't tell if she admires that I've never been with anyone, or if she's just shocked. I smile. Yeah. I've just never wanted to date, just for the sake of dating. Call me crazy, but I think when you meet that special someone, you'll just know. Liana smiles as her blush deepens. What about you? Liana looks away as she blushes.
I've never been with anyone.
Seriously. I find it hard to believe that someone like you hasn't been in a relationship.
Someone like me?
Charming, smart, hardworking, patient, beautiful. Need I go on? Liana's blush deepens.
You're seriously exaggerating. But thanks.
She clears her throat and scrambles to her feet before I can ask any more questions.
You ready to go?
I nod. My heart's still pounding. I stand to clear my thoughts. Yeah. Let's roll. We bounce across even more platforms. It takes a lot more work to soar to them than before, partially because they're further and further apart, and partially because I'm already weary from all the hopping we did earlier. The sky is painted pink and purple by the time we reach the highest floating isle. We step onto the island and look around. The flowers are shimmying in the breeze, and in one far corner is a familiar sight of a temple ruin.
This must be it.
I hear a low groaning sound. What is that?
This must be the entrance.
I follow her gaze to a large open archway. It's too dark to tell what's inside. A freezing, moaning wind spirals out of it and rustles the grass and flowers outside. I shiver, but try to shake off the cold. I'll go ahead. I walk towards the entrance, and the wind howls. It roars and tumbles out of the door, pushing me away. I grunt and try to fight my way through, but I'm unsuccessful.
It looks like there's a strong gust of wind here to keep people from entering. Let's try springing ourselves forward.
I nod. Both Liana and I take our place. And with a running start, we use the wind to augment our speed and try pushing through. Even though Liana makes it ahead of me, the wind is too strong, and we're both eventually pushed out. Dang!
Here, take my hand.
Huh?
I'll slingshot you in.
Oh,
If this is where the elemental will be, maybe absorbing the energy will lower this barrier, and I can follow after.
I nod and take her hand.
1, 2, 3!
We both dash forward, channeling our energy, and push as deep as we can. At the moment of overpowerment, Liana rotates and throws me, slingshotting me forward. I fly through the gust and tumble into the temple. Looking back, I can't see her past the darkness. At least that worked. I end up in a room filled with crumbling stone and rusted relics. Surprisingly, I stand alone in this room. Where is the elemental? She was always waiting for me in the last 2 temples. Am I supposed to summon her somehow? I take a look around the room. More items are scattered about, but I don't spot anything that looks obviously magical. I don't know how to do scans like Leanna and Amy, and Pongo isn't here to gravitate towards anything with energy. What should I do? I step further in, then pause when a pair of inverted eyes appear from the top of my vision. With a sharp yelp, I fall back. A young lady giggles as she floats over. I think that's the air elemental. Instead of imparting me with her powers, she merely watches me. Hey! You scared me! She giggles. I don't think she understands me, but my animated expression was probably interesting. What should I do? I bring my hand up to my chin to think. The air elemental blinks and does the same, resting her chin in her hand. Whoa, wait, are you copying me? I slowly move a hand. After a second, she smiles and does the same. You are, aren't you? I tap the top of my head. She giggles and does the same. She seems pretty playful. I make a pointer with my hands and slowly reach towards her. She floats closer and closer and does the same with her hand. Our hands move closer and closer until our fingertips touch. The sensation is something I've never felt before. Although my finger doesn't fall through her like an illusion, I don't feel a physical contact either. Through my fingertip, I feel a tendril of calm, ethereal energy, almost like she's testing me. She smirks, and suddenly a gale storm erupts in the room. It circles around me, whipping my hair into my eyes, but I stay steady on my feet. After the wind envelops me, it begins to channel into my body. I feel the rush of energy coursing through me. It makes me feel weightless, as if lifting the burdens of gravity from my body. The stranger and more rejuvenated I feel, the more the elemental begins to fade. Before she disappears, she grins and raises her hand to wave. Thank you! The last thing I see her beaming smile as I absorb the last bit of energy and she disappears. That was a surreal experience. I start making my way back through the tunnel.
Hey!
I see Leanna jog over.
The wind outside disappeared, so I came in here as fast as I could. Did something happen?
Yeah, I found the air elemental. Leanna brings up her manipulator and does a scan.
It seems like you absorbed the energy in here as well.
I nod. Yep, she transferred the energy like the other elementals, but the experience was a bit different.
Different?
She was curious about me. Instead of waiting for me in the room to transfer the energy immediately, she started copying my movements, almost like she was playing with me. It was pretty cool. Leanna blinks.
Are you telling me you played a mind game with one of the ancients?
I suppose so. Leanna looks amused.
I'm sure Amy will want to know the details of what happened. To be honest, I'm pretty curious myself. But we've been gone a while now. And now that we've gotten what we came for, we should head back.
Agreed. But first, let's grab a few things.
Oh right, you did promise Kara.
We search around the room and decide on a few interesting trinkets and coins to pack up. Once we're all done, we exit the temple. We both pause outside once we see the dazzling sky. It's ablaze with streaks of violet and gold. Even the puffs of clouds passing by are painted lavender and orange, adding to the portrait in the sky. The colors seem more vibrant so high up here, and the view takes my breath away.
I thought the view was beautiful before, but this is a wonder.
We take in the scenery. This is what I meant earlier. Things like this create a memory that lasts a lifetime.
I agree.
Golden rays shine brightly in the sky as the sun travels beneath the clouds, like one last hurrah from the sun before it sets. I don't know how long we stand here before I break the silence. We should head back. I turned to walk towards whence we came, but I met with a solid resistance. Huh? I try to walk forward again, but I'm pushed back in place by a stiff wind. It's as if I'm entering the temple again. I stumble and try again, but the wind pushes me back. Hey, Leanna, where did this... I turn around, and the words catch in my throat. Her gauntlet glows a pale blue, while her face is bright red. I look at her in confusion. Leanna? The wind hooks around my back and guides me gently towards her. Her cheeks brighten as the glow on her manipulator fades. What's going on?
I want to live in the moment.
She steps closer to me. Lana stares up at me with her bright, cerulean eyes. My face turns as my heart rate quickens. She's so close to me. I can smell the intoxicating perfume of her hair, and I feel lightheaded, like I'm under her spell. The radiant sunset fades from view as I gaze at Leanna. The fading sunlight illuminates her hair like a halo, and I reach out a hand to tuck a strand behind her ear. She smiles softly at my touch, then looks imploringly at me as she bites her lip. Her sudden confidence melts, and I see a hopeful vulnerability in her gaze. I wrap my arms around her back and pull her into me. She lets out a soft breath of surprise as her hands rest on my chest. I trace the outline of her cheek with my thumb. Her face turns red, and I can feel the heat of her blush. But she doesn't pull away. Instead, she leans into my touch. Gently, I begin to close the space between our lips. She tilts her head towards me, and her lips part. I can feel her breath, and I pause as our noses touch. Her breath catches at the electricity of our touch. The air feels thick and charged with energy as we hover so delicately in limbo. Her hands trace down my chest, and her breathing becomes shallow as she anticipates the meeting of our lips. I can feel the fire of her fingers as they trail down my chest. Slowly, our eyes close. Closing my eyes, I close the gap between us until our lips meet. In that moment, with the sweet taste of her lips, I'm not thinking of home. I'm not thinking of how I arrived here. I'm not thinking about my past, about how someday all of this might be torn away. I stopped thinking about anything at all. Only her. Breathlessly, we pull back and look at each other. She smiles, and it's more beautiful than the sky above. There's no doubt about it. I am crazy for this girl. I just realized something. Lana blinks. This means your "Hey there, sailor" line has a 100% success rate. Lana hits my chest playfully.
Really? Are you trying to ruin the mood?
Sorry. Should we go back to kissing?
Just stop talking.
She hugs me close and kisses me again. The world disappears as we share each other's embrace. Once the sun dips low and the sky begins to turn indigo, we reluctantly part. Hand in hand, and big gooey smiles across our faces, we begin to head back to reconvene with the rest of our group. The journey back is significantly easier as we are jumping to lower platforms rather than higher. We make good time traveling back. Even still, we would periodically stop just to take in the view again. This is definitely a sight I will never forget. We finally make it back to the tip of the mountain where we started. I hear the thunderous crack of discharges in the distance. Leanna and I freeze. Was that? Another boom interrupts me. We hurry down and I hear the clang of blades and sharp crackles of spells.
Something's wrong.
Leanna runs. I sprint after her. The closer we approach camp, the clearer the sounds become. The flashing of steel, discharges firing, people yelling. My heart pounds and I urge the wind to propel me faster. From here I can make out Amy, Zack, and Kara surrounded by a group of bandits. Half a dozen of them surround Zack alone.
We have you now, Death Slinger.
Leanna seems surprised. She mutters under her breath.
Deathslinger?
A wall of flames explodes in the bandits' path. Their attacks waver as the crackling fire makes them take cover. It takes me a whole second to realize that Amelia cast it.
We have to help!
Amy wills the flames to climb higher, her face twisted in concentration. Amy, watch out! Amelia swings around. A gale booms across the field, tearing apart the grass and flinging up dirt. The bandits go flying.
They've got backup!
Leanna and I leap near our group. She scowls and draws her blade.
Don't just stand there! Get them!
I should be used to unexpected things like this by now, but my heart is still pounding. I unsheathe my sword.
Is everyone okay?
I nod, panting and surveying the damage around me. Zack grabs one of the bandits who is barely hanging on to consciousness.
How did you find me?
Kara's eyes widen.
Find you?
The bandit stays silent. With a frustrated growl, Zack drops him back down on the ground and grabs another bandit. He takes out his blaster and shoots the bandit he dropped. The guy yelps as the blast blasts into him. He faces the new bandit he grabbed.
Talk, or the same thing happens to you.
The bandit spits in Zack's face.
I have nothing to say to you, traitor.
Zack scowls and punches the man across the face, knocking him out cold.
Traitor?
We hear shallow laughter and turn to face another bandit clutching his side.
No one joins the Cloaked Brotherhood and leaves. You should already know that. Zack Spade.
Cloaked Brotherhood?
Zack walks over to the bandit and kicks him across the face until he finally falls unconscious. Zack searches for any other bandits who may be awake, but no one else is responsive. Suddenly, Kara marches up to Zack with her dagger drawn. Whoa! What the?
Kara!
You were a part of the Cloaked Brotherhood this entire time?
Kara's voice is harsh, and her eyes only contain hostility. Zack holds her gaze and doesn't flinch.
I am not a part of the Cloaked Brotherhood.
Then why did he call you a traitor? How do they know what your name is? Tell me!
Zack steps closer to her blade, his expression cold and stony.
I already told you, I am not a part of them.
Kara retracts her blade, but keeps staring at him.
How do you even know who the Cloaked Brotherhood are?
Kara's eyes harden into polished jade. Her voice is flat and cold.
Because they destroyed my only home and family.
She sheathes her dagger and begins to walk away. Amy had stayed silent this entire time, watching the scene unfold, but she tries to stop Kara.
Kara,
Kara stops and gently shrugs out of her grasp.
I need some time to think.
Then she disappears into the trees. The air around Zack has been thick with tension ever since the ambush. Kara still hasn't returned. We set up camp without her, not really sure what to do. Zack stays secluded from us and leans against a tree. His hair covers his face. It's been a while. Maybe we should look for her. Leanna frowns and shakes her head.
It's probably best to give her some space for now.
She's probably right. Still, there's a heavy weight on my chest. I can feel Kara is hurting, but I'm even more confused by what's going on. What was that guild they were talking about?
I'm not too sure. It sounds like a mercenary guild.
Probably not a reputable one considering Kara's reaction. Leanna looks troubled. What's wrong?
They called him the Deathslinger.
Who exactly is the Deathslinger?
He's an infamous mercenary for hire. They say he has a death wish. The Deathslinger would take on missions and jobs that no one else would take on because of how dangerous they were. Anyone crazy enough to do those jobs were said to have no regard for their own life. Somehow the Deathslinger took those impossible jobs and found a way to survive. At the Mage Guild, we were warned that there were certain encounters, or individuals, who if we ran into, we would not under any circumstances engage them. The Deathslinger is one of those people.
Leanna shifts uncomfortably.
He has one of the highest body counts out of any mercenary.
I look at Zack. He may be a bit rough around the edges, but I know that deep down he cares about people. What the Deathslinger did, it doesn't sound like Zack at all. But this also isn't the first time we've seen him with bandits after him. When we first encountered him, Leanna mentioned those bandits seemed weird. Was it this mercenary guild chasing him? Can we trust Zack? Leanna hesitates, but Amelia pipes up.
regardless of Zack's past, it appears his present self is no longer affiliated with the Cloaked Brotherhood or his persona of Deathslinger. He has also not betrayed us thus far.
I suppose if he really wanted to do us harm, there have been plenty of opportunities to do so already. Leanna nods, deep in thought. Still, I wonder what the guy meant by traitor. Amy frowns pensively.
I have a few theories, although I do not advocate jumping to any conclusions before we have discussed the matters with Zack or Kara. Regardless, his previous time as Deathslinger is something he has attempted to keep hidden as a way to disassociate himself with his past.
Leanna and I nod. Everyone has a past, but it's how they act in the future that's important. I hear her footsteps. We turn to see Kara finally returning to camp. Zack whirls around. I can't read the expression on his face. Relief? Certainty? As she gets closer, I notice that her eyes are puffy and pink. It's clear that she's been crying, but her expression remains cold. She stops in front of Zack.
Tell me about the Cloaked Brotherhood.
What do you want to know?
How did you become associated with them?
Zack pauses. At first, I think he's going to refuse to answer, but eventually, he does.
They gave me my mission to silence a target. It was a part of their initiation.
Kara inhales sharply.
So you were looking to join them?
I can't see her face, but by her voice I can tell she's angry and disgusted. Zack nods. Kara's frown deepens.
That was before I knew what they were all about. When I went to carry out the mission, that's when I found out the truth. My target was an ex-member of the Cloaked Brotherhood. The rule is, the Brotherhood is for life. This person didn't want to kill anymore, and he ran away. He was being hunted but had evaded the Brotherhood for years. When they finally found him, he was living a simple life in a small village with a wife and 2 kids. The mission was to kill him and everyone close to him, and to send a clear message for anyone else who would want to leave the Brotherhood. That was my initiation. I know my target killed people. Probably innocent people too, since he was part of the Brotherhood. But his family was innocent. Their only crime was knowing him. I've never killed innocent people before, and I wasn't going to start then.
I risk a glance over my shoulder. Kara's arms are crossed, but she seems to be listening.
When I found my target, I warned him of my mission and told him I would cover him so he and his family could escape. I knew the others who joined me in my mission would kill me if they knew I'd betrayed them, so I took them out before they could get me. And then I let my target go free. Once the Cloaked Brotherhood found out I didn't complete the mission and help the target escape, I knew they would start hunting me. I tried to get away and stayed in hiding for as long as I could.
Kara finally lets out a loose sigh. The tension unwinds from her body as she slumps a little. She seems to believe Zack. Zack looks directly at Kara.
But they are a very covert guild who deal in secrets. How do you even know of the Cloaked Brotherhood?
Her voice is thick with tears, and I can tell she's trying to hold them back.
My dad was one of their targets. He had stumbled into some information when he was working as a treasurer's assistant. He reported it to the treasurer, who had been corrupt and sought to silence him. We escaped, but our life was never the same. We had to move from city to city and never stayed in one place for longer than a few days. My dad would be gone for hours, sometimes even days at a time. But no matter how long he was gone, I was never really afraid because I always knew he'd come back for me. Until one day, he didn't. I knew something had happened to him, but I had no way of finding him. I spent my life trying to figure out what had happened. I dug into as much as I could. The treasurer, what it was, who called the hit, everything. I found out it was the Cloaked Brotherhood who did it, but there was no more information I could gather on them. They cover all of their tracks. I'm not sure if he's really dead or not. I've tried to come to terms with it.
But you want closure.
She nods. Zack pauses and surveys her for a moment.
I know their base of operation. They have a ledger there that keeps records of all the jobs. So even though this happened years ago, you could still find your answer.
Kara's back straightens. There's a glimmer of hope in her eyes.
But do you really want to know the truth? It might not be the answer you want to hear.
Kara's jaw clenches, and our eyes are aflame with determination.
Yes.
Zack nods. Kara's expression softens.
I'm sorry for jumping to conclusions earlier. I just haven't heard the name Cloaked Brotherhood in so long, and as soon as I heard it...
She looks down.
I understand.
I won't be able to concentrate knowing there's finally a lead I can pursue about my dad. As much as I don't want to, I'll have to leave the group.
She turns away, but Zack grabs her arm.
I'm coming with you.
Kara's eyes widen.
What?
I've been running from my past for long enough, but enough is enough. They'll never stop searching for me, and the longer I run, the more I put others at risk.
He gestures at Amy and the rest of us.
I don't want to be the one that puts all of us in danger. I'd never forgive myself if I let them hurt the ones I care about most.
He looks into Kara's eyes. Her cheeks flush, but a small smile graces her lips.
I guess we'll both be leaving then.
Looks like it.
When they turn around to approach us, Leanna is already standing, smiling expectantly.
So, where do we go next to take care of the Cloaked Brotherhood?
Kara freezes, her mouth agape.
What?
You said you guys are going to take care of that guild, right? What's our next step?
Zack and I are going to go alone.
Amy shakes her head.
If your description of the Cloaked Brotherhood is accurate, then this mission will have a greater chance of success with the aid of the entire group.
Zack crosses his arms.
Absolutely not. It's too dangerous.
I believe my combat abilities as a mage caster have been proven on numerous occasions.
And as a mage knight and an active member of the Mage Guild, I have been trained for dangerous missions such as this.
Kara looks at me.
But what about collecting energy to help him get back home?
They look expectantly at me. I've been starting to have a lot of fun here in Terra. I still miss my friends and family back home, but there's a lot more I could learn here too. Plus, there are a few things here on Terra that Earth doesn't have. I mean, I'm not ready to give up on magic just yet. And I'm certainly not ready to give up traveling with you guys. So, if this is a detour we have to make, then I'm all in. Kara's at a loss for words.
I'm not sure what to say.
Boy!
They all glance in surprise at the Pongo. See, even the Pongo wants to go. He nudges Kara's legs. He gives Zack a tentative look. He returns his look with a stony glance. Mustering up his courage, he scoots over to Zack and nuzzles his leg briefly, then races to the safety of my legs. Zack's expression is not harsh as he watches the Pongo.
If this is what you guys want to do, I'm not gonna stop you.
Kara looks like she's about to say something, then changes her mind and shakes her head. A smile spreads across her lips.
Thanks, you guys.
The tensions in the air disperse, and things start to feel like they're back to normal. Leanna and Kara share wide grins, and even Amy looks positive.
Let's get going then.
I stifle a yawn, which Kara notices.
Hold on, Zack. It's already nighttime and we don't have a plan formulated. I think we can afford one extra day to set everything out.
Leanna nods.
Let's sleep on it and decide what our next steps will be in the morning.
Sounds good to me.
Zack heads to his bedroll, and the rest of us filter into our bedrolls too. I gradually fall asleep as the last embers of the fire die and snuff out.